SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලවජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, on board, the PHI's union sees no impediment to reopening tuition classes, but under certain restrictions. Unequal footing. Government accused of impoverishing the people of the north and east.
So that they cannot compete with the rest of the country.
While MP Harin Fernando's black shawl antics draws flack in Parliament. The ETI saga. Former directors of Swarnamahal Financial Services file anticipatory bail applications seeking prevention of their arrests.
The manager, I didn't want to do the job at all.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Wednesday, the 20th of January 2021.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Ekanaik. Now let's start off with the local stories by taking a look at the pandemic situation. Now, the COVID-19 infected individual who fled the treatment facility in Punani last night was located by the police this morning following a 10-hour operation. Just as many other escapees before him, the patient is identified as a drug addict. As for fresh coronavirus cases, 379 cases have been confirmed so far during the day, which include 4 staff members at the Halstorf Court Complex. Meanwhile, the country reported another COVID-19 related death not that long ago, raising the total number of deaths owing to the coronavirus to 274.
Ever since Sri Lanka started tackling the COVID-19 pandemic, the authorities had to give added scrutiny to a particular faction of infected persons, drug addicts. There have been many instances since the virus broke out in the country where COVID-19 infected persons with drug addictions fleeing treatment facilities. In doing so, they not only pose a threat to themselves, but to many others in society, also raising the ever-real threat of triggering a community spread. A COVID-19 infected person referred to the treatment centre in Punani escaped the facility at around 7:30 last night. The 43-year-old from Ahaliyagoda had tested positive for the virus while being employed at a bakery in Metotamulla. Investigations were launched to track down the escaped patient, and authorities were able to locate the individual following a near 10-hour search operation.
මේ ආකාරයට පැනගිය 14 වෙනි පුද්ගලයා මේ පුද්ගලයා වෙනවා මේ පැනගිය හැම පුද්ගලයෙක්ම මද්ද්‍රව්‍ය වර්ධකට සම්බන්ධ අයවලුන් නැතහොත් වෙනත් අපරාධ සම්බන්ධයෙන් බන්ධනාගාරගතව සිටි පුද්ගලයින් ඒ නිසා මේ ගැන අපි තා දැඩි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගැනීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
The coronavirus infections detected during the course of yesterday meanwhile stood at 669, spanning across 20 districts. The Colombo district recorded 130 infections, the highest from any district. Following Colombo was Gampaha with 104 cases. From the remainder of daily cases, 60 were reported from Kurunagala, 50 from Gaul, 48 from Kandy, 38 from Batiklo, 31 from Ratnapura, 29 from Kegol, 27 from Mana, while 26 infections were confirmed from Vaunia. Rest of the 117 cases were reported from 10 other districts. 9 foreign arrivals are also among yesterday's number of cases. It is meanwhile noteworthy that with the exception of Narayanpeta and Maradana, areas where new coronavirus cases were more commonly reported yesterday were MOH divisions outside the Western province. In the meantime, 4 members of staff at the Halstorf Court Complex were confirmed with COVID-19 today. Their infections were uncovered after 100 PCR tests were conducted on staff members at the court complex the day before. The positive results were confirmed by the Chief Medical Officer of Health at the Colombo Municipal Council, Dr. Ruwan Vijayamuni. Meanwhile, there was also confirmation that 8 members of staff at the State Ministry of National Security, Home Affairs and Disaster Management testing positive for the virus. Issuing a statement, the State Ministry rejected the rumours doing the rounds that the ministry is shut. There were also 3 COVID-19 related deaths confirmed last evening. It puts the island's death toll at 273. The victims are identified as a 68-year-old man from Aranayaka, a 48-year-old woman from Colombo 6 and a 70-year-old woman from Maligavatta. So far today, 379 fresh cases have been confirmed from the country. That puts the number of active cases in the island at 7,310. There was also 621 confirmed recoveries from COVID-19 during the course of the day, increasing the overall recoveries to 47,215. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Public Health Inspectors Union commented on the resumption of tuition classes.
මේ පාසල් ආරම්භ කිරීමත් සමගම යම් සීමා කිරීම වලට යටත්ව පෞද්ගලික පන්ති ආරම්භ කිරීම සඳහා අවසර ලබා දීමේ හැකියාව තියෙනවා කියලා පේන්න තියෙනවා. කෙසේ වෙතත් මේ අවදානම පහව ගිහිල්ලා නැහැ කියන එක පාසල් බලධාරීන්ට සහ පෞද්ගලික පන්ති පැවැත්වීම සඳහා අවසර ඉල්ලන බලධාරීන්ට අපි දැනුවත් කළ යුතු වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම උපරිම සීමාව පාසල් පන්ති කාමරයක සීමාවට යටත්ව ලබා දෙන්න කටයුතු කරනවා නම් අවදානම අඩු කර ගන්න පුළුවන්. පසුගිය අවස්ථාවේ වගේ විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් පෞද්ගලික පන්ති තුල ගාල් කරන්න රොක් කරන්න කටයුතු කළොත් ඒක
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
Now, the confirmation of a further 389 COVID-19 infections came minutes ago, making the daily case tally 768. Now, moving on, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa insists that the pandemic should not be made a reason to hold up the education process of children. Joining an occasion at the Homagama Mahinda Rajapaksa Vidyalaya virtually, the Premier stated that awareness among parents is vital and called on them to send their children to schools without fail, but in accordance with health and safety guidelines.
The 10th anniversary celebrations of Mahinda Rajapaksa Vidyalaya in Homagama was worked off this morning.
ලෝකෙම වසංගත බියකින් පිළී ගියත් දරුවන්ගේ අනාගතය වෙනුවෙන් පාසල් පද්ධතිය යථා තත්ත්වයට පත් කිරීමේ ක්‍රියාවලිය ආරම්භ කළා. එතුමුන් විවිධ ප්‍රකාශ කළත් දරුවන්ගේ අධ්‍යාපනය ප්‍රමාද කිරීමට හෝ ආපස්සට ගැනීමට ඉඩ දිය නොහැකි. පාසල් ආරම්භ කළ ප්‍රදේශවල දරුවන්ගේ පැමිණීම අඩු වී ඇතයි මට දැනගන්න ලැබුණා. මෙවැනි අවස්ථාවක දෙමව්පියන්ට විශාල වගකීමක් පැවරෙනවා. ඒ සෞඛ්‍ය මාර්ගෝපදේශකවලට අනුව දරුවන් පාසල් වෙත යොමු කිරීමේ වගකීම. ඒ නිසා දැනුවත්භාවයයි වැදගත්. දරුවන් ආරක්ෂා වන පරිදි පාසල් කටයුතු සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම වැදගත්.
Now, Parliamentarian of Akhila Ilange Tamil Congress Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam today accused the government of impoverishing the people of the North and East and thereby disabling them in keeping up with the rest of the country. However, what dominated Parliament today was MP Harin Fernando's decision to put on a black shawl, calling for justice on behalf of MP Ranjan Ramanayaka, who was sentenced to 4 years rigorous imprisonment.
රංජන් රාමනායකට සාධාරණයක් වෙනකම් අද ඉනම් මං කළු සාටකයක් මගේ ජීවිතේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු කාලේ රංජන් රාමනායකට සාධාරණයක් වෙනකම් මං අද පළ දිනවා. හරින් ප්‍රනාන්දු මහත්තයා කළු පාට සාටකයක් දා ගන්නවා. මේක ජීවිතේට ගලවන්නේ නැහැ කියලා දැන් ආයෙ ගැලෙව්වා. ටීවී එකට දාලා ගලවලා මල්ලේ දාගත්තා. මං අහනවා ඒක තමුන්නාස්සෙල්ලගේ සමගි බලවේගයේ පොදු තීන්දුවක්ද කියලා මං අහන්න කැමතියි ඔබතුමාලගේ. අද හරියෙන් තනි වෙලා කියනවා අනේ මං වෙනුවෙන් කතා කරන්නකෝ මං වෙනුවෙන් හිට ගන්නකෝ කියලා අද හරියෙන් ළඟට එක එක්කෙනා ගාලා කියන. ඔබ මොන තරම් අසරණ වෙලාද? අද ඔබ රංජන් වගේ අසරණ වෙලා හරේම් ප්‍රනාන්දුගේ නම දන්නවද ඔයගොල්ලෝ? දන්නේ නැහනේ. සහීඩ් හරේම් ප්‍රනාන්දු. සහීඩ් හරේම් ප්‍රනාන්දු. සාප වෙන්නේ බදුල්ලේ ඡන්ද අරගෙන අවුරුදු 5ටම කරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා ඔබතුමා මූලාසනේ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා හෙලිකොප්ටරේ ගියේ. බදුල්ලේ ඇයි? පාස්කෝ බෝම්බේ පුපුරනකොට කොහෙද හිටියේ? 98 හෝටලේ හෙලිකොප්ටරේ ගෙනගෙන ටක් ගාලා දුවගෙන ආවේ. ඒ විදියට આવොත් ඒ විදියට හැබැයි අනිත් පැත්තෙන් આવොත් අනිත් පැත්තටත් අපි ඔට්ටුයි අපි බදුල්ලේ මිනිස්සු. හරින් ඔය එල්ලගත්ත සාටකේ බදුල්ල දිස්ත්‍රික්කයට අරගෙන ගියා නම් කළු පාට සාටකේ මිනිස්සු එල්ලනවා. හම්බන්තොට වරාය අමුමුවේ විකුණනකොට හරින්ගේ සාටකේ කොහෙද තිබුණේ? අපි කියනවා කළු සාටකේ දාගන්න ඕන කවද්ද? කටුවපිටිය දේවස්ථානෙට, කොච්චිකලේ පල්ලියට බෝම්බ ගහනකට ප්‍රහාර එල්ලගෙනට කළු සාටකේ දාගෙන විරෝධ පළ කරන්න ඕන മന്ത്രിවරු. අද ඇවිල්ලා කළු සාටකේ දාගෙන ඉන්න වෙන මොනවත් නෙවෙයි. ඊළඟ සැරේ මැතිවරණයට පාර කපා ගන්න ගම්පහ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ මිනිස්සු ආයේ මෝඩ රන්දන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා බලනවා. දැන් ඊළඟ සැරේ බලනවා රංජන් රාමනායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ ඡන්ද ටික ගන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. රංජන් වෙනුවෙන් කිඹුල් කඳුළු හෙලන්න වෙන මොනවත් නෙවෙයි. රංජන්ට අවුරුදු 7ක් ඊළඟට මැතිවරණයකට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න බෑ කියලා. අන්න රංජන් රාමනායකගේ ඡන්ද දායකයන්ට කතා කරනවා. මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා හරින් ප්‍රනාන්දු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා.
Meanwhile, Ahila Ilangai Tamil Congress parliamentarian Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam accused the government of impoverishing the people of the north and east.
I'd like to draw the House's attention to a gazette notification that came out 1933. It was a gazette notification that was issued pursuant to a surveyor's department survey of a land in Kurundur Mere Kadu in Mullaittivu, where the archaeological department had asked for that particular land to be surveyed because there were archaeological valued artifacts in that area. Pursuant to that request, the surveyors department made the survey. This gazette notification in 1933 came out reserving 4 plots of land in Kurundur Mele Kadu as archaeological reserve. Despite that, honorable presiding member, that particular spot has been a venerated religious site where our people have been praying for generations. All of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, that area being cordoned off by the army, refusing to allow the people to go there on Taipongal Day to do their usual prayers. We were told that archaeological reserve is due to be excavated by the archaeological department, and as a result, the people have been prevented from going there. In 2018, there were Buddhist monks who went to that very same site and wanted to place a Buddha stupa there and make it a Buddhist temple. And the matter went before the Mullaitivu courts, and the court made a ruling that the Buddhist monks were acting illegally, and in fact insisted that if the archaeological department is in fact going to do anything, they should do it with the University Jaffna's archaeological department, and that the people till then must be allowed to go and do their usual activities. 14th of December 2020, again there has been a request by the archaeological department to have that area redemarcated, and the surveyors department sent a surveyor there who has for the first time referred to that land as the ancient site of Kurindi Viharaya. A surveyor. The department has not even excavated, has not even done its job. What is happening is what I mentioned during the budget. This government is not empowering the people of the Northeast, but infrastructure is being given prominence because you are impoverishing the people of the Northeast so that they cannot compete with the rest of the country.
Now, former directors of Swarna Mahal Financial Services PLC have filed anticipatory bail applications seeking the prevention of their arrests. Now, the relevant anticipatory bail applications were filed before the Colombo Chief Magistrate today. The Chief Magistrate has accordingly ordered to take up the matter tomorrow. The anticipatory bail application were submitted by Nalaka Edrisinghe, Jeevaka Edrisinghe, Anjali Edrisinghe and Asanka Edrisinghe, who were recently accused of criminal misappropriation, criminal breach of trust, money laundering and other offences. The 4 suspects were granted bail last Friday. Investigations are being conducted over the unauthorised acceptance of deposits worth 13.7 billion rupees, misappropriation and money laundering. Now, in other stories, State Minister of Money, Capital Market and State Enterprise Reforms, Ajit Nivard Cabral, hails the government's handling of the challenges brought on by the pandemic, saying that it has led to the people not thinking about the pandemic as the end of the world. He was speaking at the 41st National Conference of Chartered Accountants recently.
The COVID pandemic. I think, first of all, it was a health issue. Then we found that with it comes the economic crisis. So the impact on society, on the hotels, on those which are involved in the entertainment business, in various other businesses, have had a tremendous downturn which has to be compensated in some way. And how is the compensation going to take place? When we have to deliver to 5 million people provisions during the lockdown of 66 days. So those were challenges. Then opening out the board, opening out the rest of government in stages so that you do not disturb the health factors, so that you do not disturb the way in which the COVID would spread. All that were massive challenges. The acute pandemic itself needed transformation, which was, I think, taking place gently, and we now see that as being something that had already taken place in our country. And today we are, to some extent, reaping some benefit of that as well. We got more confident. We don't think of the pandemic as the end of the world. We are now able to withstand some of these challenges, and that again is another part of the whole story, which has made us a lot more resilient than what we had been in the past. Now, stabilization. That is why you would have noticed there was a moratorium that was enhanced. So we made sure that the clock, as far as the payments were done, was stopped for at least a certain period of time. The government stepped in at the right time to ensure that the financial sector was not disturbed at that time. We want to see that immediate relief is provided. That's why the 5,000 rupees a couple of times, as well as the provisions, were all distributed very quickly to the houses itself, so that there was no panic that was setting in. Third, we wanted to establish this new normal as quickly as possible. So we had to ensure that the agricultural sector was protected, that there was enough food to eat, that those parts were all very carefully managed.
Now, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Rajitha, calls on the people to speak out with courage when faced with injustice. Addressing the annual church feast of the St. Sebastian's Church in Katuapitiya, he also said that repeatedly shouting a lie does not make it the truth. In the meantime, the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday terror attacks concluded recording evidence from witnesses yesterday.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena appointed a 5-member presidential commission to probe the Easter Sunday attacks of 2019 on the 21st of September the same year. After commencing its evidence hearing on the 31st of October in 2019, the commission has so far summoned 439 people. It also included former President Maithripala Sirisena, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and several ministers of the Government of Good Governance. What's more, former IGP Pujit Jayasundara, Defence Secretary Harin Fernando and Director of the State Intelligence Service Nilantha Jayawardena were also among the people who gave evidence before the Commission. In the meantime, yesterday the Commission confidentially heard evidence from Umair Mohammed, who had close ties with Zahran Hashim. With that, the Commission has concluded recording evidence from witnesses. However, former Director of the Criminal Investigation Department Shania Besekara failed to appear before the Commission despite he was scheduled to give evidence yesterday. Commission sources said that the former director would testify before the Commission in the coming days. In the meantime, the annual church feast of St. Sebastian's Church in Katuapitiya was held today under the patronage of Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Rajitha.
අපි හෘද සාක්ෂියට අනුව කටයුතු කර යුතුයි. නීතිය අවනීතිය කරන්නට උත්සාහ කරන්නේ නැතුව වැරදි දේ කළොත් ඒක වැරදි කියලා කියන්න අපිට ධෛර්යය තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මේ හරි දේ වැරදි දේ කරන්නේ මොන පක්ෂයේ එක්කෙනාද මොන ආගමේ එක්කෙනාද මොන ජාතියේ එක්කෙනාද කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ නෙමෙයි වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. හරි දේ කිරීම. හෘද සාක්ෂිය කියන එක ක්‍රමයෙන් මිය යමින් පවතිනවා. මේ අපේ එක එක අනන්‍යතාවයන් තුල ඉර වෙලා සත්‍ය බොරුව බවට හරවන්නට කටයුතු කරනවා. කෑ ගැසීම තුලින් සත්‍ය බොරු කරන්න බෑ. සත්‍ය සත්‍යමයි. බොරුව බොරුවමයි. ඒ නිසා මතක තියාගන්න. ක්‍රිස්තියානි නායකත්වය කියලා කියන්නේ ධෛර්යවන්තව බය නැතුව කතා කරන එක. ඔබගේ අගරාධිපතිතුමා මේ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරයේ දවසේ ඉඳලාම කතා කරන්න යන්නේ එහෙමයි. ඒ මොකද ඒක මගේ වගකීම. රටේ පොදු සම්පත් විනාශ කරන එක අපිට අනුමත කරන්න බෑ. ඒ වෙනුවෙන් අපි පෙනී සිටින්නට ඕනේ. අපි පීඩාවටපත් වෙච්ච ජනතාවක් මේ කටුවපිටියේ ඉන්නේ. ඔබගේ පවුල් බොහොමයක නෑදෑයෝ නැති වෙලා තියෙනවා. ආදරවන්තයින් නැති වෙලා මේ බෝම්බ ප්‍රහාරය නිසා. මේ මෝඩ තරුණ පිරිස කරපු ඒ අසාධාරණ වැඩේ නිසා අපේ ජීවිතය තව තවත් ඒ අභියෝගයෙන් ශක්තිමත් වෙලා ඉදිරියට ගෙන යන්නට ඕනේ ධෛර්යවන්තව.
Now, applicants are currently being shortlisted for the contest Derana Startup 2021, which is a program launched to uplift young entrepreneurs. Now, it is organised by the Derana Media Network in collaboration with the USAID-funded ULEAD project and the Jordanian non-profit organisation Partners for Good. The Small Business Development Division of the Ministry of Youth and Sports, as well as several other institutions, are also contributing to this endeavour. The applications are sorted by professionals and as well as officials of both state and private sector. More details about the contest can be accessed by logging on to the official Facebook page of Derana Startup 2021, and the organisers will be contacting selected applicants via email. We will see you once more on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, K.M.M. Sirivardhana, says that the currency swap arrangements with the People's Bank of China have reached the final stage, while the positive response from the Reserve Bank of India pertaining to the other swap is also expected. In the meantime, Director of Economic Research at the Central Bank, Dr. Chandranath Amarasekara, says that the heavy domestic participation in the Colombo Stock Exchange is vital for the foreigners to start believing in the country's potential.
What's the progress of the swaps with RBI and People's Bank of China? When are they going to be expected to materialize?
The swap arrangement from the PBOC has come to a kind of final stage. We are expecting a response in the near future. And at the same time, we have made the request to the RBI. And in fact, RBI has processed it and they have sent it to the Indian Ministry of Finance. So we are waiting for the Ministry of Finance response. So we expect a positive response for that as well in the near future.
Any possibility that Sri Lanka is going to raise a sovereign bond this year?
As we all know that the secondary market interest rates have increased to a relatively high level these days, but we are very closely monitoring the situation, and already we have seen some turnaround of these high interest rates, and we are hopeful with the positive developments that are taking place in the Sri Lankan economy, and benefiting from those developments there will be some easing of interest rates going forward. And it's very difficult to say a definite time, but we'll be closely monitoring the situation, and when the opportune time comes, of course the government will go to the international market.
That's a brief question regard to the central bank intervention in the domestic forex market. How much the central bank has spent on intervention in January or during the last 30 days?
There's a couple of things that we can say. One is that in the year 2020, the net purchases from the foreign exchange market amounted to US dollars 282.5 million. And you may remember that at the end of November, net purchases amounted to US dollars 305 million. So the difference was the intervention in December, and during the month of December as well as in January, the central bank has been intervening in the market, but we have not seen a need to intervene with very large amounts.
In the meantime, Director of Economic Research at the Central Bank, Dr. Chandranath Amarasekara, also touched on the government debt servicing.
In 2020 also, we have seen 4.5 billion public governments foreign debt service payments. And in 2021 also, we expect governments foreign debt service payments to be about 4.3 billion US dollars, and including the domestic foreign currency liabilities, this would be about 7 billion. This includes the central bank liabilities also.
Question is the factors driving the foreign outflows from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
We have seen foreign outflows from the stock market for some time now, and there are marginal outflows thus far in 2021 as well. From the government securities market also, we have seen substantial outflows, particularly with the onset of the COVID pandemic in 2020. But if you take the first few days of this month, this year, we have seen a marginal inflow. This sort of shows the difference of sentiments of foreign investors and domestic investors. At the moment, domestic investors are very active in the domestic stock exchange as well as the government securities market. If you take the government securities market, although the interest rates offered are relatively low, the first two treasury bill auctions as well as the treasury bond auction that we've had, they have been fully subscribed. So we think that the domestic investor confidence is crucial for foreigners also to start believing in the potential of the country, and hopefully this will result in foreign inflows in the period ahead.
Now, Sri Lanka have surpassed the revised forecast of $9.5 billion in merchandise exports, marking $99.9 billion in 2020. In 2019, the country recorded $11.9 billion in merchandise export earnings. However, with the island achieving 104% of the revised target for 2020, Chairman of the Export Development Board, Suresh Dimel, says that amidst the outbreak of COVID-19, a notable rebound of the export sector was recorded from mid-2020 with the proactive measures introduced by the government.
Statistics of the Department of Customs placed the export earnings in December 2020 at $931.65 million, which is 13.75% upper than November 2020 and 6.91% lower than December 2019. Reduction recorded in October and November exports due to the COVID-19 outbreak in Sri Lanka, which has had a direct impact on manufacturing and export facilities, also continued in December 2020. When considering the top 10 export markets other than United States, United Kingdom and Germany, increases in exports were recorded in other markets, with exports to China and Turkey up 30.97% and 31.01% in December 2020 compared with December 2019 respectively. Sector-wise, export earnings from apparel and textiles declined by 6.47% to $450.49 million during the month of December 2020, compared with $481.59 million recorded in December 2019. Export earnings from tea, which made up 12% of merchandise exports, increased by 6.78% year-on-year to $112.97 million in December 2020 compared to December 2019. In addition, export earnings from rubber and rubber finished products have increased by 6.22% year-on-year to $79.52 million in December 2020 due to the better performance in exports of pneumatic and retreated rubber tires and tubes and industrial and surgical gloves of rubber. Earnings from all the major categories of coconut-based products have also increased in December 2020 compared with December 2019. As for spices and essential oil exports, they have increased by 57.61% to $33.13 million in December 2020 compared with the value of $21.2 million recorded in December 2019 due to the better performance recorded in exports of cinnamon and pepper. Meanwhile, earnings from exports of electrical and electronic components increased by 26.58% to $36.14 million in December 2020 in comparison to December 2019.
Meanwhile, at the Colombo Bourse, stocks closed higher today as all-share price index gained 0.97% to close at 7,884.45. The S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks gained 1.27% to close at 3,096.35. The market turnover was 9.3 billion rupees, with 124 stocks gaining and 84 falling. Now here's a brief report on today's market performance.
The market reverted to positive territory today, at the end of the day gaining about 75 points after the huge sell-off that we saw yesterday. However, in the early hours of trading, continued from yesterday, we saw significant amount of selling pressure in the market. So with that, we saw the index declining by over 100 points. And afterwards, what we are seeing is that we are seeing a gradual improvement in the index, and there was a significant recovery as the day progressed. After that, we saw the market entering the positive territory with a rally in the banking sector counters. We saw banks across the board changing hands and significant buying interest coming into the banking sector.
Now and then, the Sri Lanka Cricket's chairman of selectors and team manager Asantha de Mel has decided to step down from the position of team manager after the second test against England. Speaking to First at 9, Mel said that he took up the position temporarily, adding that it is high time that the management recruit a permanent manager for the team.
The manager, I didn't want to do the job at all. Actually, it was during the World Cup 2019. They were having some issues and they basically said, please do it. I don't like to do this manager's job. But they had issues with the players and they were having all kinds of problems with the coach and the players and all that. So the minister at that time also spoke to me, and then the board asked me to do it. Just a one-off for that tour. But what happened is subsequently that then there was Pakistan and all their issues and nobody wanted to go. And so if I had not gone at that time, then there would have been another issues with the players not wanting to go. So that it got stretched. So this was something that I did not take it on as a permanent job. It was just a stopgap. So now I've been doing this couple of tours, but it's too much. So I just, for personal reasons, so I think it's the right time for me to step down and for them to get a permanent manager, because I have to do everything here. It's on my own. So as long as I'm there as the chairman of selectors, I'll do that job, but I will do it from Sri Lanka. I won't be traveling with the team.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.